or maybe we're asleep in the middle of the night while they're out on the West Coast all weekend. There are other things happening in the American League, not just trade rumors, but teams doing well and other teams falling apart. One of the teams that I bet my dollar on as the American League team most likely to make the playoffs was the Houston Astros, and they were a massive disappointment in April and May, but they have been the hottest team in baseball over the last month. Even when the Orioles have been hot, the Astros are surging right now in the American League West. Jake Kaplan is on the beat down there in Houston at the Chronicle, first-year beat writer there after a stint with the Phillies up in Philadelphia. I mean, you left one outhouse, Jake. You found another one for a little while, but and the Phillies played okay for about a month and a half. But boy, the Astros have all the talent, all the pedigree. Plus, last year, I kind of expected this all along, and I'm not shocked that they've at least gotten better as the season has gone on.
Yeah, no, hey, they definitely got off to a terrible start, 7-17 in April. They were better in May. I think they finished 5 games over 500 in May. But it's been really the last 3 or 4 weeks where they've really picked up steam. Ever since May 24th is kind of the turnaround date. You can look back to it was also the date where they put George Springer as the leadoff hitter, coincidence or not. Yeah, they've been playing a lot better baseball of late. Recently, in Kansas City, they scored 13 runs in back-to-back games against the defending champs. So, I think the division's probably all but out of reach, given that the Rangers are probably the best team in the American League. But they're definitely going to be in the mix for the wild card as the season wears on.
Jake Kaplan covering all things Astros. You can follow him out on Twitter at Jake M. Kaplan at the Houston Chronicle, home of the great John McClain. Before the conversation's over, I'm going to do my John McClain for you, Jake. So I have a good John McClain. Many have tried to emulate, but I do it pretty well. I was down there last year for our 30-30 tour, and the anniversary was the other day because I saw it on my Facebook timeline, and I shared the pictures with Dan Pastorini. The Astros were great. It was a Keuchel night, and it was the night where they had the shirts out with, the goatee thing going on and the cartoon shirts, and they're selling the special seats out in the outfield. I got myself one of those shirts, which I thought was cool. And he pitched in the All-Star game, all that. To me, he had to be the leader of all of it. And I was there on the night they were all whipped up. They were beating the Yankees up that night. They were in first place, feeling themselves, kind of getting that mojo back for such a long time. The Astros haven't been good. And I think the fans bought in last year. I thought the pitching would be better than it was earlier in the year, and I think everybody goes into the year thinking they have better pitching. But that, at the root of the Astros' problem was really bad pitching early on, right?
Yeah, and it was really starting pitching. A little bullpen, I guess, with Ken Giles in a terrible April also, but it was mostly rotation-based issues in April. Keuchel, Mike Fiers was inconsistent. Colin McHugh was inconsistent. So the pitching has stabilized for the most part in the last 6 weeks or so. Colin McHugh's been really good in most of his starts. Dallas Keuchel's been better. He's still not 2015 or even really 2014 in terms of his numbers, but he's been better. He still has to kind of rid himself of these big innings he's allowing. But he also, until his recent game in Kansas City, was getting the worst run support in baseball. So it hasn't been an easy season for him. They still, are probably one top-notch pitcher away, in my opinion. But definitely in April, that was the Achilles heel. Their lineup was also top-heavy. 1 through 4 was pretty much the whole lineup, but now they're getting production throughout. So that's been another big difference recently. But yeah, pitching was the root of their 7-17 April for sure.
Yeah, I would have never have told you that Keuchel could be 4-9 with a 5.5 ERA heading into the All-Star break. I would have think he would be more likely to have been the All-Star game starter, quite frankly. And it's been the likes of Doug Fister, who was, given up for dead by a couple of teams now, and the Orioles had a chance to add him. Scott Feldman, whose middle name begins with an F here, as you can well imagine in Baltimore, as part of the Jake Arrieta deal. But those have been the best acquisitions, and I didn't think that's the way it was going to play out for the Astros. I thought Fister would be a nice addition.
Yeah, no, Fister's he's been their biggest surprise of the season. He's been their best pitcher from day one, really through now. I think Brent Strom, their pitching coach, and just the whole Astros philosophy kind of unlocks something in him, and he's utilizing different things. He's throwing high fastballs, more inside fastballs. His whole repertoire just looks better. And he's back on track after a bad 2015 in Washington, in which he finished in the bullpen. So he's definitely rebuilt his value for the coming off season, where I'm sure he'll get paid. But he's been their best pitcher, and it's really helped stabilize their rotation even when in April he was a guy they could rely on every fifth day.
The Springer to lead off is interesting because the Orioles have gone through a similar thing here with Adam Jones and what to do with him, and Machado getting himself suspended, and Hardy's not around, and they don't really have a true leadoff guy. I think we've seen a lot of things change in baseball through Moneyball, and I know you're a younger guy than I am, but it's not weird to be experimenting with the leadoff spot anymore, and I don't think there's any crime in it, and certainly it has spurred on many a rally of late.
Yeah, no, I mean, George Springer was always they kind of had two leadoff hitters, and it was just a matter of which one do you use. But Jose Altuve was driving in he was getting so many hits, and still is, that you need to put him in more opportunities to drive in runs, and that's kind of what the deciding factor was. They dropped him to 2 and then to 3, so he's in a lot of RBI opportunities, and that's really been a big reason their offense has been better. And Springer, in the first 2 weeks after they moved him to the leadoff spot, went on a big power surge. So, I don't think, you could point to that date of May 24th when they made the change as a turning point, and I think that had something to do with it, but I think the bigger factor was that was kind of the time the rest of their hitters turned around also. Luis Valbuena, chief among them, he's been one of their best hitters the last month or 6 weeks of the season, and it's kind of gone unnoticed. But he had a really, really bad April, didn't have any home runs, and then he's really turned it on since.
Boy, Altuve's fun to watch, right? I mean, you're kind of new to the whole party down there. You're not a Houston person, covering the Phillies and going down there right around opening day. I mean, you've really only been on the beat 90 days. From the outside, that seems like a pretty good place to be and watch baseball right now. And even though they kind of had their downs early in the season, for the most part, they got a lot of pretty good baseball players down there, led by Altuve.
Yeah, no, it's kind of from the outside perspective. You heard more about Correa and Keuchel than Altuve, it felt like. And, Altuve is really the star of this team. He's arguably been the best player in the American League the first half of the season, and it is really fun to watch on a daily basis and nightly basis. I mean, it's more common that he's getting 2 or 3 hits than he's going hitless. He never strikes out, and when he does, in Kansas City, the last game in Kansas City was the first time he struck out in multiple at-bats in a game this season, which is incredible. So you begin to kind of take it for granted sometimes because he's doing it every day, but it is a treat to watch. And he's a good guy, too. He's a good personality. He's fun guy to kind of watch how he interacts with his teammates, and he just seems like a good leader of the Astros.
Jake Kaplan is covering all things Houston Astros at the Houston Chronicle, home of John McClain, amongst others. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Jake M. Kaplan, and as well as at the Houston Chron. That's chron.com. And the Astros playing some better baseball right now, which is why we brought Jake onto the line. And, you talk about Correa. It seems like all the teams have this young stud, right? We got Machado here, Stanton. I've talked to folks in Anaheim this week, and what they have out there with Mike Trout. Correa is going to be that guy, and you believe he's going to be that guy, and you see it. But there is sort of that leveling off period where they all don't come to the major leagues hitting .330 and leading, and hitting 40 home runs. That doesn't happen right away. But you really get the feeling with this kid, and it's like you said, from the outside, he's the one you hear the most about as a phenom. I think he's on a right path, and I certainly am not down on him because he's not setting the world on fire, but he's a nice piece for what they're doing, and I think he'll have a better second half than he had a first half.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a star if he's not already. He's going to be one of the game's best players. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He hasn't, he made the expectations so high for himself with what he did last season, hitting 22 home runs in 99 games and winning Rookie of the Year, that he wasn't it was probably, all the MVP talk preseason was probably premature. He's in the early pitchers adjust, so he has to adjust back, and he's only 21 years old, and so we've seen some of those growing pains, especially earlier this season. He was not happy with the April he had. Observers of the team and people who watch them every day say he was giving away too many strikes. He wasn't aggressive enough early in counts. It seems like he's been more aggressive recently, and he's really come on. I mean, he was the AL Player of the Week just recently here, and he's already got, even when he's not getting hits, he's contributing. He has 5 go-ahead RBIs in the 9th inning or later, and by the standards set for him before the season, it hasn't been an amazing year for him. So even though, maybe he's not going to be the MVP this year, he's still helping the team win with those late inning hits, and he seems to have a flair for the dramatic, and I think in the long run, he'll be just fine, and we'll be talking about him for a lot of years.
Jake, one of the things I did here to amuse myself in the offseason, especially after the Ravens stunk last year, was to give everyone a fake dollar bill on the air and say, bet it on an American League team and bet it on a National League team. And I did that all during February and March as we got ready for the season. I was the guy betting that dollar in the American League on the Astros. Obviously, you picked yourself up and moved your life down to cover the team this year in Houston. You expect them to be a playoff team, right? I mean, not just sort of kind of maybe. You expected that at the beginning of the year.
I thought the Rangers were definitely better.
Okay.
Honestly, I thought the Rangers were the front runner for the division. They're just so much deeper, and they have help on the way with Joey Gallo, and at the time, Nomar Mazara wasn't up yet. I think I expected the Astros to be a wild card team, and that's probably. They'll definitely be in contention for that. I wouldn't, they might not. They might not win the wild card. There's some other good teams there with the Red Sox and the Royals and the Blue Jays. So, I mean, it's going to be a battle for them. But, I expected them to be in the mix. I didn't expect them to be World Series champions this year like Sports Illustrated did and some other people did. I think it was probably a year or two premature to predict that. But you never know. I mean, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So that's why baseball is great. So, I probably thought the Rangers had the edge. Maybe not this much of an edge, a 10-game edge, but the Astros were definitely going to be a contender. It was just a matter of in what fashion, division or wild card.
Is that thing heating up, the Houston-Dallas thing? Because, I mean, look, I've been at it with football for 30 years. They don't like each other much. They've never had a reason to not like each other on the baseball side. I think there's a lot of pride in both sides of that. But I would think this should be right around the time things start to get a little spicy because these teams are going to play meaningful games.
Yeah, I think I was a little caught off guard by the rivalry thing. I mean, I think for it to be a rivalry, that the two teams have to be contending year in and year out. And this is only the second year where both have been good in the same division. So, and the Rangers have owned the Astros for all but one of their meetings so far. So it's not. I mean, it's a budding rivalry, but it's not quite there yet. And I think the attendance numbers for those games would reflect that too. That even when the Rangers were in Houston, they didn't sell out by any means or even come close to it. But I think it's getting there. I think the teams, there is a little bit of that extra juice when they play. But for it to be a rivalry, the Astros have to win a couple more of the games against the Rangers than they have to date.
They in a decent position to buy something before the trading deadline? I mean, here in Baltimore, we talk about a farm system that's bereft of talent or anything that would be attractive to other organizations. The Astros, had their opportunities last year, and certainly they've got plenty of money. I mean, it's one thing they haven't spent a lot of money that they could take something on. Is that something you see that they would look to do in the next 6 weeks?
They're in a weird spot. They have the prospect. Even after all the recent trades they've made, and they have, like you said, the payroll flexibility, having not spent a whole lot. But at the same time, they don't have glaring holes. If there is a hole, it's the consistency of their starting rotation. But Dallas Keuchel's not going anywhere. Maybe Mike Fiers gets bumped from the rotation if you add someone, but it has to be a significant upgrade to the point where you're willing to do that. And I'm not sure in this current market that guy is out there. Maybe if there was a guy with several years of control, kind of like what Cole Hamels was last year on the trade market, that would make more sense. I don't see them spending big in prospects for a rental. But there's still a few weeks for this to iron out, and kind of how they look in the race will probably help dictate what they do there.
Jake Kaplan covering the Houston Astros at the Chronicle down in Texas. Hey, man, good luck on the beat out there. I know our paths will cross before it's all over with here as well. And, I'm kind of a little bit pulling for the Astros. I had a good experience down there. I really enjoyed it. And one of my regrets is not buying the Starburst jersey in the gift shop, man, on the trip. I mean, anytime I pull on a Jose Cruz, Nolan Ryan, Enos Cabell special, that's something they got going for them. So you always have throwback games, right?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and anytime you want to talk Astros, just give me a call.
Appreciate you, Jake. Jake M. Kaplan, a way to find him down at the Houston Chronicle, as well as at Chroncom. First year on the beat with the Astros after covering the Phillies up at the Philadelphia Inquirer. I think you traded up, Jake. Anybody leaves Philadelphia is all right by me. Just take the tasty cakes with you. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota audio of all 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. We go everywhere you go. Podcast, listen when you want, where you want, how you want. All brought to you by buyatoyota.com. Our morning newspaper hits your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And don't forget, the week of July 11th, I'm going into the vault, breaking out all the old little mini cassette tapes and presenting for the first time ever interviews with legendary rock stars. Over 23, 24 Hall of Famers. I got Paul Stanley from Kiss. I got the Black Crowes. I got Dan Fogelberg. I got John Bon Jovi, Billy Joel, John Denver, all sorts of stuff that I've been editing, and we're going to present it for the first time the week of July 11th. Hope that you guys dig that. The hashtag is WNST Rock Week. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.